everyone. Thank you for joining me for another Christmas card video. What we're going to look at today is the next step for some of the journal pages we tore in a previous video. So what I have here is a stack of the layer 2 journal pages, which is the smaller layer. So this is going to be the front of my card, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for my design. So let's start with our list of supplies. Ruler, quilting rulers, colored pencils, drawing pins. So I'm going to be drawing a graph of a Christmas tree on the front of my cards, for my math cards. And so what we're going to start with is one sheet of our journal pages and then my quilting ruler, which I again have marked out to the measurements I need. So the first thing we're going to draw is our X and Y axes. So I've got this piece of tape marked out for my y-axis, which I'm going to put at 1 5/8 inch, and then my x-axis is at 1 1/4 inch. So I'm going to grab my quilting ruler, and I'm also going to grab one of my drawing pens, and I like the Micron pens. I think they give you a nice clean line and they don't smear very easily. I'm using the 0.5 width because I think that gives a nice bold line. So I'm going to line up my y-axis with the edge of the paper. And these aren't going to be super exact since our edges are torn, but close enough is good. So we'll do a nice straight line for that. And then flip it around to the x-axis and do the same thing. Alright, so there's our axes. We'll put the little arrows at the end since the axes extend forever to infinity. Alright, get that out of the way. Now I'm going to grab my other ruler, and I decided to mark out my intervals on my axes at 1/2 centimeter each. That just is the measurement that seemed to work out the best for what I needed. So I'm going to use this ruler, which actually has a centimeter marking. My quilting ruler does not. And I'll just mark those out on my axes. And I'm not actually going to put the numbers labeled on each one of these because that's going to make my card look messy and cluttered. So we're just going to have them as hash marks. All right, and then do the X. And I've been lining up one of my axes, whichever is the perpendicular one to the one I'm marking, with one of the long centimeter lines, and then just marking it at 1/2 centimeters out from the center. Okay, so there's our axes. And so the points I'm going to be using for the points of my tree, which is going to be a triangle, and then a little rectangle at the bottom, are -6, 0. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to -6, 0 there, and draw a point. And I'm going to do the same thing at 6, 0. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so pardon the technical difficulty, my light went out, but I think we've got that fixed now. So we've got our point at -6, 0, and then we were counting out to the 6, 0 point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll mark a point there. And then the top of my triangle is going to be at the point 0, 14, so we'll count 14 up on our y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And these are points I determined just through trial and error, drawing out a few of these. Okay, And so that's going to be our triangle. So I'm going to grab my ruler again and connect my points. And I didn't get that exactly right, but it's close enough for an example. Okay. All right, and then extend your lines out to infinity. Okay, and then for the base of my tree, I'm gonna do 3 line segments. And since I don't have a grid line drawn, I've been using my quilting ruler to mark those just because I've got a nice grid there. So my points are gonna be at -2, -3, and then 2, -3. So I've been lining that up, my ruler up with my hash marks for those points. I've got 2 and -3. So 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. And so that's about right there. And then I'll do the same on the other side. Okay, oops, right there. And then I'll make those points a little more defined and connect them with my ruler. And actually the quilting ruler works a little better for me for this because this has a lip on it that my pen always goes in. It makes my lines go off track. But this is nice and solid. So there are our lines for our tree. Next, I'm going to color in the parts of my tree. I'm just going to do that with colored pencils. And so I'm using these Koh-i-Noor colored pencils. They're woodless colored pencils. I like them because they're color all the way to the edge. No wood to get in your way. I feel like you don't have to sharpen them quite as often depending on how fine of work you're trying to do. So I have a brown and a green. And so let's just color it in. And then the green, and there we go. And I'm not being super precise with this because I kind of wanted it to look like a school project, so I'm not going like super close to the edges on all of them. All right, and then the last thing we are going to do is label all of our points and our lines. So I'm going to do that with my Micron pens, and I'm going to do each line and all the points in different colors. So all the points are going to be one color. So we're going to have that at 0, 14, and then 6, 0, -6, 0, and then -2, -3, and 2, -3. And then we'll do a quick little math lesson to show you how our lines are going to be labeled. Okay, for this part of the card, we're going to be graphing lines on a plane. And the equations you're going to need to know for this part are the slope-intercept form of a line, which is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope of the line and b is the y-intercept of the line. And so the slope is rise over run, which rise is the vertical distance traveled between 2 points and the run is the horizontal distance traveled between 2 points. And the y-intercept is just where the line intersects your y-axis. We're also going to want to know how to represent a horizontal line on the plane. And so that's just y equals any number, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So I've got our tree drawn out on my graph paper here already. And so we're going to start with our blue line here. And the points that this line goes through are, let's see, -6, 0, right here on your x-axis. And then up here we've got 0, 14, because it intersects the y-axis at 14. And so to calculate our slope here, you go up 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And so that's our rise. And then our run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get over to our second point. So it's 14 over 6, which reduces to 7/3. So our slope is 7/3. And then our y-intercept is just the 14 right here. So that's going to be our b. So the slope, or the equation of this line is going to be y equals 7/3 x plus 14. And then we'll do the same thing for the line over here, which is the green line, and it intersects the x-axis at 6, 0, so just the opposite of our last line, and the y-axis at 0, 14. So this line is going to be exactly the same, except the slope is going to have a negative value. So that one is going to be y equals -7/3 times x plus 14. So those are our two slanted lines. And then next we're going to look at our horizontal line right here, the one between these 2 points, which are -2, -3, and 2, -3. And so we just want to represent this small part of the line that would be y equals -3, because y equals -3 would go across the entire plane. So what we're going to do is represent it as y equals -3, but we're going to bound it between -2 and 2. And the way you do that, I'm going to put a little comma there, is you do -2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 2. And so that's how you represent that here. If you did just less than instead of less than or equal to, your points would be open around that instead of a filled in point like we have. I could represent these two lines as well, but I don't have enough space on my card. That would be done similarly. It would be x equals -2 bound by 0 and -3 on y. And the same with this one, it would be x equals 2 bound by y between 0 and -3. But since we don't have a ton of space on the card, we're just going to ignore those two. And that's it. All right, and then we've got our lines labeled each in a different color just to make it look a little more interesting. And that's it for the front of our card. So we're getting close to being done with these cards. Check back in for the next video and see how we put them all together.